So today we have two very exciting new APS-C cameras from Canon, the Canon R7 as well as the Canon R10. Two very interesting cameras filled loads full of features. We're gonna see what they're all about in this video. First off, we'll start by looking at the body design of the Canon EOS R10. Reminds me a lot of the entry-level DSLRs such as the 1300D from Canon. It's very compact, it's very small, it's lightweight, but unlike those entry-level DSLRs, the ergonomics on this remind me more of their mid-level Canon cameras. So you've got two dials on the EOS R10, which I absolutely love, compared to the entry-level DSLRs where generally there's only one dial. You needed to push another button to adjust a different setting using the same dial. But with the R10, they're both separated, giving you a much easier and faster workflow. At the back here, you've got all your essentials. You've got your quick menu, you've got your drive changes, your info button, you've got an AF on button as well as a joystick at the top to change your autofocus points. On top, you have a dedicated record button. So if you're filming video, you don't have to use the shutter button. On the left-hand side, you have a few ports. So you've got a HDMI port, you've got a USB-C port for charging and transfer, which I love, since most things now use USB-C, and if you carry around a power bank as well, you can charge the camera on the go. And then you also have a remote button and a mic port. Unfortunately, the R10 does not have a headphone port, which I would have loved in this, but it does have some other cool nifty features as well, such as a flip-out screen. It's got a pretty decent EVF as well. For the EOS R10 battery, it uses an LPE17. So if you're moving on from a beginner / mid-level Canon SLR that still uses these batteries, feel free to keep those because they'll work in this camera, and it's rated for up to 450 shots. Finally, next to the battery, you have space for one SD card. Next, let's talk about the R7, which is the more mid-level enthusiast / professional style camera. Now, it's got a similar body structure to the R10, except the R7 is a lot bigger, the grip is deeper, and it reminds me a lot of the 7D Mark II, but a lot smaller. What you have on this is you've got your standard dials, you have your dedicated record button, but you also have a dedicated ISO button at the top. In terms of dials, you do have two dials, but the second dial is located not in the typical location. It's located at the top right next to the EVF, and also the joystick to adjust your autofocus points and settings is also in the middle of it. You've got at the back here your quick menu, your info button, you've got your flip out screen, and on the side you've got two SD card slots here, so you can have either your rollover card or you can shoot both at the same time if you want to do RAW and JPEG and dedicate one card just for RAW. And then you've got on the left-hand side your standard ports. You've got your mic port, your HDMI, USB-C, your microphone, but unlike the R10, the R7 does have a dedicated headphone port for audio monitoring. And for the R7's battery, it uses an LPE6NH, which is rated up to 660 shots. Now, in terms of flashes, the EOS R10 does have a pop-up flash, whereas the R7 does not. However, both cameras have the capability to add on an external flash via the hot shoe mount. All right, let's talk about the internal features on both cameras. Both use an APS-C CMOS sensor, however, they're not stacked. On the R10, you have a 24.2 megapixel sensor, and on the R7, you have a 32.5 megapixel sensor. Now, though both have different megapixel counts, they share a lot of similarities. They both shoot high frame rate, so the R7 can shoot electronically up to 30 frames per second, whereas the R10 can shoot electronically up to 23 frames per second. Now, both cameras are capable of shooting up to 15 frames per second mechanically, and you can also shoot it in RAW, which is fantastic. Now, albeit you can't really shoot the burst that long in RAW, the R10 maybe will clock out after a second or two, whereas the R7 may last a little bit longer. But even having those capabilities in cameras such as this is amazing. Now, in terms of autofocus, both the R10 and R7 share the same dual pixel AF2 system. You've got up to selectable 651 points, and they both have tracking features. You can track people, animals, even moving cars as well, and it has eye and body detections. Now, in terms of the performance of the autofocus tracking, As you would expect from Canon, it works quite well. We were testing it on a Pigeon earlier. All I had to do was simply press the AF on button and it was tracking the Pigeon's eye as well as its body pretty well. Now, one of the more exciting features on the R7 and the R10 are their video capabilities. Both cameras have the ability to shoot 4K up to 60 frames per second with some slight catches. On the R7, you can shoot 4K up to 60 frames per second, but you won't get oversampling. Whereas the R10 can also shoot 4K up to 60 frames per second. However, it'll be cropped in a little bit more. So maybe factor in that APS-C crop as well as the extra 4K 60 crop with a wider lens if you do plan on shooting it up to 60 frames. In terms of 4K 30, both have the ability to oversample, which means you're going to get some really high quality video out of both cameras. And in terms of stabilization, the R7 has in-body image stabilization up to 7 stops, giving you a very nice handheld experience, whereas the R10 only uses an electronic stabilization if you do activate it, and note that does crop in the video a little bit more. In terms of log potential, the EOS R7 does have the ability to shoot C-Log 3. So if you're going to be going out and looking for a really strong dedicated video camera, or you are 50-50 in photos and video, the R7 might be the better one to go for out of both these cameras, as it's got a little bit more extra potential as well as the in-body image stabilization as well. However, if you are a casual shooter of video and you're just around to get a couple nice holiday video shots, then the R10 will do the job and does the job really well. All right, onto the shooting impressions for the Canon R10. Upon holding it, super lightweight, compact. This is not going to be a pain to travel with or take around because it is not heavy at all. And it's super user-friendly. So if this is going to be your first camera, or you're moving on from a entry-level DSLR into your first mirrorless camera, a lot of things make it very easy to use. When you're changing modes, it'll tell you what each mode is about, so you don't really get lost in it. In terms of changing your actual settings as well, the screen is completely touchscreen, so you can go through, change your shooting speeds, change your ISO, basically change all those settings that are very, very tedious to change normally, but with a very nice and easy UI, you can change it all with your hand on the screen, which I find brilliant. We're gonna put this on high-speed burst now, and we're gonna try and get some of these birds moving, so let's go. Now, I'm not a wildlife photographer, but if I chuck this on servo, and we got the tracking going, just putting down that AF on button, and it's working pretty well. I completely missed. All right, we're gonna round two. We're gonna try and get another one. I'm going to get the RAW off. We're gonna do all JPEGs, and hopefully we're gonna get a faster buffer of these birds. Come on. I think I got it. Not bad. Not bad. But I reckon I can do better, but not bad. I'm gonna be honest, out of the 50 shots I just took, there's actually 2 pretty good ones. Considering I'm using an 1845, which is a quite wide lens, I think we've got it. As you saw earlier there, the tracking works pretty well. It's super easy if you need to change through subjects. If you're going to be shooting people or birds or cars, in the menu you can just quickly swap to that. And I feel like in terms of this performance in autofocus in such a entry-level price point as well, it's going to be really good. It's going to be a lot easier to get some really good photos. And if you're going to be out there for your first time on the field using a more, I guess, loaded camera compared to your phone or an entry-level DSLR, yeah, get some pretty good photos straight out with such a sophisticated autofocus system. Actually crazy that you can not only shoot that fast in a camera like this, but also get tracking as well. Insane. Now, shooting impressions with the R7. One of my favorite features in the R7 that isn't in the R10 is that it does have the ability to close the sensor curtain. So you can close it down to prevent any dust from going in if you're changing lenses or just have it off. In terms of the shooting experience, Deeper grip is really nice. The video definitely has a much larger difference than the R10. Being able to walk because you've got in-body image stabilization and shoot at the same time, which is great. The 4K looks really nice on it. And I guess just the whole usability of the camera is really nice. Now, initially I did have doubts of the positioning of where this second control ring is, where the joystick is. Didn't really mind it in the end. When I was shooting with it up against my face and changing it, it felt quite natural. I didn't have any adjustment period to it. So I guess having a control ring up there isn't too bad. My main difference between the R7 and R10 in terms of usability, I feel like if you are a professional looking for a second B camera, or you're an enthusiast or someone who is more invested in video, definitely the R7 is the way to go out of the two cameras. The R10 is great though. If it's your first camera, or if you're looking for something a little bit better than your entry-level Canon DSLR, or if you're looking to move over to mirrorless, the R10 is great. It's super light. It has heaps of great features into it, and it is at a really good price point. Both cameras, in fact, are at great price points and are loaded with features. So I feel like Canon really hit nail in the coffin here on both cameras, as not only are they super affordable, but they are packed loaded full of features that you would expect from cameras a little bit more than its price point. So here are my final impressions on the R7 and the R10. Both cameras, amazing value for money. You get amazing features in them, such as fast shooting speeds, an amazing sophisticated tracking autofocus system as well, and 4K video capabilities. If this is your first camera, or you're upgrading from an entry-level DSLR such as the 1300D, the R10 is definitely the one to go for. If you are a professional looking for a B camera, or you're going for a more sophisticated video experience, then definitely go for the R7. Both cameras boast great features and great quality for anyone that's looking to really dive into their photography, and with both sharing the RF mount as well, opens up the door to the range of the amazing Canon RF lenses too. So if you're looking to future-proof yourself or get into photography with a buckload of features for not too much damage on the wallet, both of these cameras are great. If you have any questions on the R7 and the R10, pop them in the comments below, or head into our store on 387 George Street in Sydney. If you enjoyed our video, make sure to hit the like button, the subscribe button, and the notification button as well to stay up to date with our latest videos as we upload videos regularly. Take care.